Hello everyone, welcome to Econ2 SI video. This topic will be about demand. If you haven't done so already, please use the link in the description below to sign in. All right, let's begin. So first off, let's just talk about what demand is. So first off, we have something called quantity demanded. Now, quantity demanded is the amount wanted at a particular price point. So if I go to the store and a price of chocolate bar is $2 and I buy two, my quantity demanded at $2 is two. Then we have something called the law of demand. So the law of demand is actually a pretty simple concept. It describes the shape of how the demand curve is formed from this quantity demand. It just generally is as the price goes up, the quantity demand goes down. So it makes sense because if chocolate bars get more and more expensive, I end up buying less and less. On the other hand, if prices go down, then I'm going to buy more and more. So if I go to the store and a chocolate bar is now $1, I can buy more chocolate bars. And so this describes the shape of the demand curve. Notice that as the prices increase, there's a lot less quantity. And as the prices go down, there's a lot more quantity demanded. So one thing to note here is that no matter how much the price changes, notice that the demand curve itself is not moving. We're just going from the red point to the green point or the green point to the red point. So price does not shift the demand curve. Price changes only lead to a movement along the curve. So let's continue. So we now know how the demand curve is shaped. We now know that demand curve is a downward sloping curve. So let's talk about what can affect the demand curve. Because we've already settled that the price does not change any of the demand curve, it only moves along that point. So shifters demand, the first major shifter is income. And it could affect things in two ways. And it depends on whether or not it's a normal good or an inferior good. Normal goods and inferior goods are just classified based on how the demand is affected by an income change. So for a normal good, when my income increases and my demand increases, that is what's called a normal good. So for example, these can be things like a car, a house, and as I have more and more income, I'll buy more and more of these normal goods. On the other hand, it's the opposite as well. So if I lose my job and I lose my income, then my income decreases. And so in this case, if these normal goods like 3-ply toilet paper, 4-ply toilet paper, like the very luxurious toilet paper brands, then when I lose my income, the demand of those normal goods will decrease. Then on the opposite end, what we define as an inferior good is that anytime when our income decreases, our demand of the good increases. So I lost my job and now I can't afford a lot of these normal goods. So this is those generic store-brand products. So instead of like a name brand product, you have an off-brand product. So this is like 1-ply toilet paper, instant mac and cheese, instant ramen, instant cup of noodles type of thing. And so when you lose your job, demand of these inferior goods increases. On the other hand, if your income increases, the demand of the normal goods decrease. We also have something called related goods. Related goods can become in two parts, is complements or substitutes. The demand changes depending on the effect of one good, and we're looking at the demand of another good. So we'll do things in terms of X and Y. So the price of good X is the outlier good, the related good. And the demand of Y is what we're looking at. So price of good X, if it decreases, then in a complement, the demand of Y would increase. Think about this in terms of cars and gasoline. If the price of a car decreases, then I'm going to buy more cars. So along that line, I'm also going to end up buying more gasoline. On the other hand, if the price of the car goes up, then in general, people in the market will buy less cars, and that ends up having a demand decrease for gasoline. Next up, we have something called substitutes. So substitutes are a bit different. So instead, what we have is price X and good demand Y. When the price of good X increases, then the demand of good Y increases. So think of things in terms of, these things are perfectly indistinguishable. And so when I don't care which good I buy, then I'm going to just buy the cheaper one. So think about things in terms of an electric car and a truck. One uses a lot of electricity, uses gas. But both are cars, essentially. They both get to point A, point B. And I don't really care the difference between a truck or a car. All I care is that transportation. So if the price of a truck increases, then I'm just going to buy an electric car instead rather than a truck. Then on the other hand, if the price of a truck decreases, then I'm going to buy less electric cars because I'm going to buy a truck instead. So our demand curve is basic, downward sloping. An increase in the demand is represented in a shift to the right, and a decrease in demand is represented in a shift to the left. All right, so let's do a couple example questions. So first off, you have what will happen to the demand of gasoline if the price increase? So you have to think what part of demand, what type of shifter is this? So gasoline and trucks, these are goods that really, really go well together. And so if the price of trucks increase, people in the market will generally tend to buy less trucks. And if people are buying less trucks, they don't need as much gasoline. So the demand of gasoline is going to decrease. So this is a complement. Next up, what will happen to the demand of gasoline if the price of hybrid cars increases? So in this case, if the price of hybrid cars increase, people will buy less hybrid cars. And so what's going to happen is that if people buy less hybrid cars, they're going to buy other cars, right? And so they're going to use more gasoline. So demand of gasoline should increase. This is an example of a substitute. Next up, assuming textbooks are normal goods, what will happen to the demand of textbooks if you lose your job? So normal goods. These are goods that they're normal, right? So if I have more income, I'll buy more of them. And if I have less income, I'll buy less of them. So in this case, demand decreases.